Hello. So, you might be wondering why there's already a rock up here, but we'll get to that towards the end. But to start, my name is Adam Barna. I've been going here for about 3 years, thanks to Jordan, but again, we'll get to that in a bit. So ever since I was born, I've attended church. I was born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in 1998 and lived in the eastern part of the state until my dad was called to be a pastor for a small Wesleyan church in Waterford, New York. My parents have been leading this church for the past 18 years, and as of this past year, their church is officially debt-free. I went to Houghton College, graduated with a business degree in business administration, and met and married Jordan. And since July of 2020, I have lived here in Buffalo, and since then, I feel like I'm home. One of the things that have always amazed me, though, was creation. Ever since I was young, I've enjoyed trying to replicate and recreate things that I've seen in small scales, VBS props, or whatever a situation called for. There are two moments in my life that I remember that connect to being amazed by creation, all the things that came with it. The first thing was when I was in 8th grade. I attended a seminar at a youth conference titled Created to Create. In the seminar, the speaker talked about all the different ways that people have been able to create new things, from music, art, inventions, and stuff like that. And they related to Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and every time he said, "Let there be," it happened. I was inspired by this idea that we were created, but also were given the ability to create, and that I've allowed this opportunity to add to his work in my own small way. I hadn't looked at creativity as a gift from God before, and my art moved from a simple hobby to a form of worship. The other moment was when I was in high school. I was walking my dog Cody around Sugarloaf Pond, and I was intentional about being in this moment. I remember seeing the green grass and water ripple from the 3 fountain spring water. I remember feeling the intermittent sunshine that kept coming in and out of the clouds. I remember the smell of the semi-stagnant water inhabited by ducks and geese. I remember hearing the birds and my dog's paws on the concrete and the occasional breeze through the trees. It was at this moment I was to be in awe of creation, a moment that I would have missed if I just put my earbuds in and focused on getting those 2 miles done in a good amount of time. Similar to my walk with Cody, it could be easily missed to what God is doing in my life when I focused on a task instead of his creation. And when I was in college, I took a few different art classes. And what I came to enjoy the most were the 3-dimensional pieces. Much like our faith, this form of art has multiple sides. We can fixate on one side, but neglect the others. And when I first sketched out the idea, or whether we talk about the piece as a whole or seeing all the intricacies of who we are and God made us to be. But when I was in this sculpture class, I made this piece. What it is the house forming out of an unfinished rock. Now, when I first sketched out the idea, it was never supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be a pointed spire and twisting and all these other fun things, but after knocking off 2 of these spikes with a pneumatic drill after 5 hours of work, I had to redraw my plan. And none of this was going to be the case. So I realized my original vision could not be my final product. So Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." There are times in my life I've felt that I was supposed to be a teacher, a pastor, a shop clerk at Petco, and even an architect and a bunch of other things, but God always had a different plan for me. The weaker points of myself broke away at times I was least expecting it, and leaving me without a plan or sometimes even friends. And I had to restructure everything I've done just to get to see the other side of what God made me to be. Now, I am a Sunday school teacher, a Christian example to non-Christian friends, and I have a brain wired to find systems and efficiencies, and that's how I serve my coworkers every day. But after mourning the loss of my original spire design, I had to draw up a new plan, and this house is what came next. I felt the loss of what could have been, but I knew this old plan had to be let go. Loss is something that's somewhat new in my life. I haven't experienced a lot of it, but when growing up, our family had typically a dog or two roaming about. We celebrated their arrival and bringing them into the family, but also mourned their passing. I lost a lot of classmates through difficult and unjust means, and this November, I lost my grandfather. In his passing, I mourned, but I was at peace. This is a new part of my story I'm still processing, but I know that he is home with the Lord, which has brought me a peace that's past all understanding. Some of my biggest losses have been lost plans. I planned to attend a community college back home in Albany, but 2 months to August, I felt guided to go to Houghton, and 5 hours from all my friends and family. After graduation, I was supposed to live and work in Buffalo, but after 186 job rejections, that's humbling, let me tell you, a pandemic and my wedding, it was July before I finally moved here, and growing up, I had never considered leaving the Wesleyan Church, but after arriving in Buffalo, I not only joined the Lutheran Church, but I'm also an active member here. But finally, when I got to this project a little bit further, I was finally down to 1,200 grit sandpaper and a block of wax and a heat gun. This is where the piece finally came of what you see now, and I finally was able to present this piece to the students in my class. And once it was placed on this turntable, my friend wanted to see the other side, and he gently spun it, causing it to fall onto the ground and chip off another one of the corners. And I remember he was distraught, but I just laughed it off because I was like, it's okay if one more thing went wrong. But 2 Corinthians 5:17 tells us, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, and the new is here. There have been a few times in my life I feel like I've reached to the end of where I was. The end of high school, the end of college, the end of living with my parents, and yet God has always showed me there's something I have not yet seen, something I haven't experienced. These plans he has for me are going to make me new, removing what was and shaping what was there to create something newer and improved. After fixing this chip and polishing the newly formed corner and bringing this 40-pound rock home, my parents didn't know what to think or do with it. So for 2 years, it sat in corners and closets and treated as a nuisance, a dangerous paperweight, and until it was finally brought back into view here. But this resembles our faith when we take it as a chore. Being a pastor's kid and being active around a church for as long as I can remember, staying focused on the work that's in front of me can be really difficult. But it doesn't always fit the occasion. And I am left thinking of replacing it with a new work or a new vision, but I try to leave it, let God lead. Granted, this is just a rock and wasn't made a symbol of our faith, but it became a symbol of creation for me. And I want to wrap up my testimony with Matthew 7:24 and 25. Everyone, therefore, who hears these words of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down and the floods came. The winds beat on the house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. I know I'm most like the wise man because I built my life on what God has planned for me and who he says I am.